Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay? One thing, when we read, I want you to look at the picture. This even tells you. Look at the picture. Talk about the pictures, right? That's right. Try to read the large type, okay? All right, this page is a little tough. Long ago, there was a girl called Snow White. Snow White was pretty. She lived with her father, the king, and her stepmother, the queen. The queen was pretty, but she was not as pretty as Snow White. Snow White was pretty. Okay, so we already see, what did the main character want? We don't know what Snow White wants yet. Okay, we know what the stepmom wants, but I don't know if she's the main character. So the queen had a magic mirror. This is a mirror. She looked in her magic mirror. "Who is the fairest?" asked the queen. "Snow White," said the magic mirror. The queen was angry. She wanted to be the fairest. Now, fairest means prettiest, okay? Fair means pretty in this book. "Who is the fairest?" The queen sent for a hunter to kill Snow White, but he did not want to kill her, so the hunter left her in the forest. Snow White was lost in the forest. Snow White was lost. So maybe we already see a problem. We don't know what she wanted. Maybe she wanted to go home, but the problem is she's lost in the forest. That's one problem. Sometimes there's many problems. Then Snow White saw a cottage. That's like a little house. She went inside. There were 7 little chairs. There were 7 little bowls. Upstairs, which we know is an adverb, there were 7 little beds. Soon Snow White fell asleep. Snow White saw a cottage. Okay? On the right side is kind of the easy part of the book, right? When Snow White woke up, she saw 7 dwarfs. Now, dwarfs are little men. "Who are you?" they asked. Snow White told the dwarfs about the wicked queen. "You can stay with us," they said. The next day, the dwarfs went to work. "Goodbye," said the dwarfs. "We will be safe. You will be safe here." So on this right side, simple part, she saw 7 dwarfs, right? And they went to work. Okay? But the wicked queen looked in her magic mirror. "Who is the fairest?" asked the queen. "Snow White," said the magic mirror. The queen was angry. The hunter did not kill Snow White. "I will kill Snow White myself," said the wicked queen. See, she's in the mirror and she's saying, "Who is the fairest? Who is the fairest?" So already we have a problem. The problem is the queen and the hunter are going to try to kill Snow White. Oof, not good. The wicked queen put poison in an apple. She dressed as an old woman. She went to the dwarf's cottage to find Snow White. "Here is an apple," she said. "Thank you," said Snow White. See, down here it says, "Here is an apple." Maybe the problem is the apple has poison. You know poison, right? It's not good for you. It can make you sick. All right. "Bite the apple," said, "Bite the apple," said the wicked queen. Snow White bit the apple. Then Snow White fell down. "Snow White is dead," said the queen. "Now I am the fairest." Snow White fell down. So we see the problem is Snow White fell down. The dwarfs came home from work. They saw Snow White. They tried to wake her up, but it was no use. The dwarfs were sad. "She is dead," they said. So the dwarfs put Snow White in a glass coffin. So here's a problem. The dwarfs are sad that Snow White won't wake up, right? Dwarfs were sad. That's a problem. I wonder if they have any solutions. Oh, here comes a solution. One day a prince rode by. He saw Snow White. The prince kissed Snow White, and Snow White woke up. Soon Snow White and the prince were married. Everyone was happy. But the wicked witch was so angry that she broke her magic mirror. So see, what's the solution? Snow White was kissed by a prince. Snow White and the prince were married. So then she had a friend and a husband to help her, right? What was the end? In the end, the wicked stepmother broke the mirror, right? And Snow White and the prince were married. I'd say the end is this one. That's the sentence. Snow White and the prince were married. Okay. Let's see how much time we have. So let's see if we can answer some of the questions, okay, from this story. This is a little harder. So the main characters are, who are the main characters? The main characters were, who was in the story? The main characters were Snow White, right? Snow White's number one. And the 7 dwarfs. Okay? You could put the main characters were the evil stepmother, right? The stepmother, the queen, comma, Snow White, comma, and the 7 dwarfs, okay? Now, because the 7 dwarfs is a proper noun, I think it's just their titles, right? It's like a collective proper noun. We're going to see in the book, did they capitalize 7 dwarfs? Because they definitely capitalized Snow White, because her name is Snow White. So, they don't capitalize it. It is not a proper noun. Because it's a group of people, we don't need to capitalize this, okay? It's describing. This is an adjective. 7 dwarfs, okay? So we don't need to capitalize dwarfs, all right? Now, so what did the main character want? So what do you think Snow White wanted? Well, if we put the queen, we know, see, the queen, I think, is a main character. Because what did the queen want? She wanted to be the fairest. The sentence is right here. She wanted to be the fairest. I think the main character wanted to be the fairest. Okay? We could even write, instead of putting main character, you could put the queen wanted to be the fairest. Sometimes we need, if we have main characters, they don't all want the same thing. Because Snow White and the dwarfs just want to be happy, right? They want to be safe. They don't want to die, okay? And we don't know in the story what they really wanted. We know what the queen wanted. She wanted to be the fairest, the prettiest. All right, so next, what is the problem in the story? The problem in the story was, what's the problem? Snow White is the fairest, right? The problem is Snow White is the fairest. You could even say the problem is, the problem is Snow White is the fairest. You could also say Snow White was lost. That's a problem. But really we want to know the problem in the story is that Snow White is the fairest. We can also put the problem was Snow White got lost. People are trying to hurt her, right? But the truth is that the biggest problem is Snow White is the fairest. She's the prettiest. Because how does the queen solve the problem? The queen is the one doing many things in this story. So what's the first thing the queen does to be the fairest? The first thing she does is she sends a hunter to kill Snow White, right? So after the hunter, what else does she do, right? We got dwarves. What does she do next? She asks the mirror, am I the fairest now? I sent the hunter. And no, she's not the fairest. So what does she do? The wicked queen put poison in an apple for Snow White. Our answer is right here at the top of this page. This is another thing she did to solve the problem, right? So the main character in the story, I think we should put the queen in the story, right? The queen in the story solved the problem by sending a hunter to kill Snow White and put poison in an apple for Snow White. Okay? If this is the problem, what you write here is the solutions that people tried, right? The main character or the villain or whoever. Okay? If this is the problem, you have to write how did people try to solve it? And in this story, the queen in the story solved the problem by sending a hunter to kill Snow White and put poison in an apple for Snow White, right? Okay, you can also say she sent, okay? She sent a hunter to kill and put poison in an apple. Those are both irregular by sending. Actually, we have to put sending. By sending and putting. Sorry. So we have to do ing after by doing, right? We always say by doing. So solve the problem by sending or putting, okay? How did the story end? So at the end of the story, the main character, or here we're going to put the queen, no, the main character. So here we're going to put Snow White, right? At the end of the story, Snow White, what did she do? She married the prince, right? It says it when we look at the end of the story, right? The end of the story isn't that they're sad. The end of the story is Snow White and the prince were married, okay? This is the end. This is what it tells you, right? So in the end, they were married, and the queen and Snow White is the fairest, right? And the prince were married. Okay, we can always find the answer in the book. I'm using sentences from the book, right? Snow White and the prince were married. Snow White stays the fairest, right? Or she is the fairest, right? Snow White is the fairest. Okay? So I hope that helped. And good luck to you guys on your homework, okay? Bye-bye.